acquaint yourself with that whilst I introduce your two eminent hosts today, Hélène Barnekow and Nick Gowing. Welcome up. Hélène has a long track record in Swedish tech and telecom. She's worked at Sony, Ericsson, Sony Ericsson, EMC, Telia, Microsoft Sweden, as today a consultant and board professional. And Nick is a very familiar face to anyone in the UK, being the lead news anchor at BBC World for a number of years, and is now the founder of Thinking the Unthinkable think tank, where sort of the world has just come into fruition for you over the last 5 years, hasn't it, Nick? I leave this in your very capable hands. Thank you.
Peter, thank you very much indeed. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for being here on time, because that's the way we're going to run it between now and 4 o'clock. We're really here to drive the agenda. Have your phones at the ready, and I just want to underline that, what Peter said, and be ready to voice your thinking throughout our time together. Hélène.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Yes, it will be intense, and it will be time efficient with a coffee break. There will be lunch, there will be drinks at the end, so you can really interact. Please respect the timings, be back on time, and Nick and I will do our best to follow up on that. We really want that spirit of engagement and questions, and please lean in. This is a platform for those amazing speakers who have been flying in, but we need your questions and engagement to make this really worthwhile. So your contributions are needed, no long speeches, but please lean in.
A couple of personal reflections to get us going from both Hélène and me. Out of Thinking, it remains very much a great title to encourage all of us to think so differently. And really well done, the Swedish Chamber, for identifying that. But we can't say out of the box anymore. That's what I would be suggesting to you. The box of predictability and stability that we all take for granted has well and truly imploded, just as we warned. So think back a year to when we were here a year ago. We urge you then to think radically. You all entered the spirit, but at the same time, we were consumed by fears of that new virulent Omicron, I should say, the virulent COVID variant. But you and we were nothing like radical enough for what has now happened in the last year. Look at what has happened since. In 1 week, here in the UK, we started with a Queen and a Prime Minister. 3 days later, we had a King and another Prime Minister. We now have a third Prime Minister. And there was a comparable prime ministerial drama and political drama in Sweden as well. But the new concept to put on the agenda for you today, to wrestle with, is polycrisis. It's a world in which economic and non-economic shocks are entangled all the way down. That's as historian Adam Tooze is expressing this new phenomenon. Inflation, fast-growing national debt. Here in the UK, warnings that our wealth will return to where it was 8 years ago. That means huge new threats to our national societal stability, increasing shortages, stresses to the supply lines, expectations and assumptions being dashed for so many people. For many, they're being destroyed at this very moment. Adversity prevailing. It is that rich, it is that blunt. And the deep shock of the barbaric war started by Putin in Europe. In Ukraine. Increasingly, it's having a far broader security and economic impact, not just on energy supplies at affordable prices that we took for granted. It needs a new framing for national security, and that's one of the sessions we'll be engaging in this morning. As senior figures from Nordic countries and the UK agreed at the Aurora Summit last Thursday and Friday in Sussex, we must not think of after Ukraine. The impact and implications will be ever present for all of us indefinitely. It is with Ukraine, and there are the added uncertainties of where is Russia going, where is China going, and more broadly in the developing world as well. So we've got to be considering in our outer thinking how to be agile, how to be decisive in ways which our societies and communities, our corporates and our political classes adjust and recalibrate for the implications. And I put it to you, this has got to be done indefinitely now. Complacency and a belief that we understand all these unthinkables are, I'd suggest to you, really an enemy. This must be the focus of outer thinking today. So must the fast deepening climate emergency. I was at COP27 in Egypt 3 weeks ago. Apart from the government, apart from the agreement in principle for funding loss and damage in principle for developing nations, COP27 was in many ways a cop-out compared to what is happening with the science. The science of climate is ever more dire, as leading climate scientists like Johan Rockström from the Potsdam Institute make clear. We are triggering and creating new tipping points. This is happening far faster than he and fellow scientists thought possible. And that is scary, with profound implications. Are we really planning and thinking and preparing for the implications and how we survive all of this? It's not too dramatic to say that. John Kerry, I heard, the US climate envoy in Sharm el-Sheikh say, "You've got to get your butts together," he said. "We've got to move 6 times faster given the scale of the climate emergency." That's why we need outer thinking, the enormous implications for leadership. Hélène can pick up on that, the implications for leadership, for you as leaders to frame and define solutions. Hélène.
Well, thank you, Nick, and thank you for raising my pulse this morning. I don't know if it happened to all of you, but it did happen to me. And certainly this has huge impact, has to have huge impact, radical impact for leadership. It's a whole new world we need to deal with, cope with, and not the least then lead in. And the world we talked about pre-COVID that Peter was talking about exponential speed, technology disruption, talent crunch, etc. To me, it seems like a soft training ground when I think about what we actually need to do based upon what Nick was describing. I don't believe there are any economies, any large organizations or small organizations that can just continue as if nothing has changed. We cannot use an old map to navigate the new world. It's not possible. So my take number 1 on this is that whether you're a major international company or a smaller company, we all have to think about our leadership platforms as something much larger than just reporting on our quarterly reports and our normal KPIs, which we are very good at. What role can each of us play in making a difference in a credible way in the world that we are affecting? This will not only create new businesses, because it will, but it will be a hygiene, I think, for being a business that is relevant in that new emerging world that Nick is describing. So now we know for sure, my second take is that no matter how many endless number of COP meetings and policy-making meetings, it will not create a solution for our climate emergency. And it really is climate emergency. So whatever business you are in, the climate emergency is yours. It is not somebody else's, because it will not be solved that way. We will have to understand our own business and have a viewpoint, a plan, a real plan, metrics to follow, real intentions and actions. And climate will really be business. My third take is that many of the enablers making a difference coincide outside of our own organizations. Technology enablers as one example, and brand new partnerships and collaborations as another. So learning how to partner and create collaboration will be critical. And this is also where startups and scale-ups will continue to play an increasingly important role. And we have that on the agenda today for that reason. And for sure, without technology enablers, we are not going to solve for this. So in closing, I think we all need to be super magnets. We need to be companies that customers really want to be customers of. We need to be companies that partners really want to partner with, and where employees really, really want to come and work. I think that's how we need to think about ourselves, and that has to be the long-term play. And to be that, I think we need to build our leadership on a combination of courage and humility. And this is sometimes difficult to combine, but I think it's a combination that counts. Courage to deal with the unknown, the unexpected, make difficult, radical decisions that is so much needed, but also humility to understand the effect we have on the world around us and why these decisions matter so much. And with that combination, I think we can include all stakeholders, of course, employees and customers and partners and investors, but also the planet and the earth. So that's how I think we need to think about leading in the new emerging world and creating the map for the future, Nick.
Well, let's try and define that new map for a new world. Open up your handsets. Let's test what you're thinking at the moment, please. Let's go to the first question for you, and we're going to try and compare this between now and the end, just before 4 o'clock, to see whether you've changed. How optimistic are you about the future? Give us your view ASAP, please. It's trending in a very clear direction, around 8 and 7. That is good news. You're relatively optimistic about the way things are going. Let's recall that later. Hélène.
Let's see if we're as optimistic on the second question. What confidence do you have in the current political and financial system?
We need that to inform one of the sessions this morning.
Yeah, this is very interesting, and I think that gap between will be a good discussion today.
Number 3, are we seeing a new world emerging? Yes or no? I think we should be talking to the 20% of you who think that there's nothing new emerging.
You'll get special attention from Nick.
Finally, Hélène.
And the final question, do you think we need solutions, new solutions to new problems? Yes or no?
Who's the 3%? Are you 3 people of 1%, or are you 2 people of 1.5%? I'd like to know. Does anyone want to say why they think that we don't need new solutions? Please.
I think a lot of the problems need old solutions to the new problems.
Okay, just let me get the microphone. Bring the microphone quickly. Introduce yourself as well, would you?
Daniel Phillips, LKB Minerals. I think there's a lot of problems that need the old solutions to the new problems. So we have technology, EV cars, electricity, decarbonisation. There's a lot of stuff that's available now that doesn't need new technology solutions.
Right, well, I'm going to see if others join you later during the day, for those of you, hopefully, who will still be here. Let's move on immediately. What is now happening, going to happen in the next year? Of course, you can all predict what's going to happen in the year.